My name is Jonathan. I'm one of the co-founders and co-devs of DappThat. Kind of what we're going to be talking about today, but more so the impact and the market state. So a little bit of background on myself. I've been a blockchain engineer for about 6 years, and 2 years that I've been playing around in the applied AI space. I'm co-founder of Spark Engine. Spark Engine's the parent company of DappThat. And dApp is an an AI-assisted EVM dApp generator. Think of it as like a human in the loop system where it's going to give you a bunch of suggestions and you're going to be able to amend and verify before proceeding to the next stage of the design journey. So the project goals is to be that developers can really develop these EVM dApps in an hour. Currently, it's in a beta phase, so we went through getting a bunch of feedback, and we've got some really constructive feedback, and we've kind of pulled it back for now. And we've got a wait list while we build it up into what will be the main launch. Right now, it builds out a very solid framework for your project to kind of move it in the right direction. So you'll see later on that I was building a dApp a day using it. And yeah, it was phenomenal. As I said, I've been a blockchain engineer for 6 years and I've never been able to build so fast. It reduces the barrier to entry for creating dApps. So right now it's developer focused, but we're going to transition it into being much more focused for like non-developers. So you can just give it, a few sentences of what your idea is, and it will be able to generate the whole thing pretty much. And one of the things that I learned quite quickly when I got into the EVM space was what makes the number go up generally is the innovation, because it makes a lot of noise. So let's make some noise. Let's first go into kind of like what the market looks like. You've probably heard of Cursor if you're into the development space or tech space at all. But it's built for building bespoke applications. That's fine. That's what it's made for, but it's not built for testing and auditing smart contracts, which is something that we took a bit of a focus on with DappThat. And then there's other dApp builders on the marketplace, but they're not bespoke, let's say. They're focused on already existing solutions, whereas our generator is focused on building custom solutions that you've not that aren't on the market right already. And so this can also be kind of extended to building like new ERC token standards and different ways of being able to create new functionality. So we'll go through like the design journey of building a dApp. So you go through like your context gatherings. It's generally known as the design and designer's discovery. Then you go through your functional requirements of your smart contracts. So functional requirements generally start with this must happen or this must do X, Y, Z. Then we go through generating the smart contracts and generating the unit test cases for those smart contracts. This is not the code itself initially. This is on a higher level. Okay, this is a ERC20 token. Once it's deployed, the name and symbol should equal A and B, right? This is like the first step of that. Then after we've generated those test cases, we'll use the generated smart contracts in those test cases to analyze, see, okay, are there any mock contracts that are required in order to fully test this smart contract? Okay, great. There is. Let's generate those mock contracts. And then once all that's happened, we generate the actual test code for testing the smart contract, making sure that we've got all of the functionality that we need to actually execute these tests. When we're executing these tests, you guys are technical, so you probably appreciate this a bit more, but we have an API on the back end which spins up and destroys a Docker container on command, which essentially acts like a remote test execution environment where you'll be able to submit from the front end your your tests, your smart contracts, and it'll be able to execute the tests and return the results. So you'll be able to see, okay, these are where the tests succeeded, here's where they failed, here's why they failed. You'll be able to iterate very quickly on the generator. Once, because we're in very early stages right now, we're not promoting deploying straight to mainnet. It's not a very smart move, especially when you need to get things like properly audited. And that's one thing I would actually suggest, right? If you're going to use a generator, if you're going to use any of these AI tools, don't deploy straight to mainnet, because yes, AI is correct like the bulk of the time, but sometimes there are inconsistencies in what you thought was the case. And so really what you need there is a professional that's used to spotting all of these errors, and can audit your contracts and your web application for you. After you went through that, we're then going to start on the development journey for the web application. So this is then going to generate the plan for the dApps, for the pages. So what pages are required? What's the purpose of the page? What components are going to be on what page, right? Once you've kind of went through that stage, you're going to then generate component context. So this is, your user goals, your primary functions, style and content, functional requirements of the components. And this will all be used for generating each component specifically. And as I said, this is a human in the loop system. So every time they generates something, they're merely suggestions right now, okay? Because in a high stakes environment like blockchain, where it's fintech, right? You can't just let AI control the whole thing. You want to make sure that when you're building these bespoke solutions that you actually got control of the reins, right? And it's actually going in the direction you want. After that, it's going to generate the styling guide. So your primary, your secondary, and your accent colors. Very early on in the context gathering stage, you'll just be asked what colors do you want on the website, and it will go ahead and generate that for you. They'll focus on generating the API plan. So this is going to give you what's the routes that are required, what the methods, as a get, put, post, delete requests, what's the path that it's going to take to get to that API, what is the description and kind of like the understanding of why that API is being used, what's the kind of logic throughout it. Based on everything that we kind of went through so far, it's then going to generate what the database schema is, what table names are, what the columns are, what the types for those columns, what are the requirements for those columns, are the columns, can they be null, can they not be null, are they primary key, is there a foreign key restraint on another table within that schema. Then it's then going to take over and the reins a little bit, and it's then going to link each of these sections together. So what APIs are integrated into what components, what smart contract functions are integrated into what components, what environmental variables are required for what APIs, what the data format is going to be going to the API from the front end component and then back from the API to the front end. Once we've done that, we'll confirm that that's good. You can then go on to generating the actual code for the dApp. So this is first generating the components, and then generating the APIs, and then generating the database SQL code. Once you went through that, it's then going to dynamically display the components. You'll be able to see the component displayed. You're going to see the code displayed, edit the code, regenerate the code. If you see a component and you think something should be a little bit different, you can just click on it, and then you'll be able to put in what your prompt is, change what that is. And then you can then go through the same for the APIs and the schema, is you're able to then go in, edit it, amend it, verify, or regenerate it, depending on what your request is. And then you can then focus on the integrations part. So when it's generating this component code at first, it's generating the component code which can be dynamically injected into a front end, and it's not the finished code. So then when you're generating the integrations, it's then going to say, okay, well, here are the mappings for what APIs are being integrated into what components, what smart contract functions are being integrated into what components, and it's going to generate arrays of JSON objects with what code is to be removed and to be replaced with what. Once you've finished going through the integrations, it then generates the actual page. So what combines all the components together, and then lets you build the actual, it'll automatically build it into a Next.js project and a hardhat project. So you're able to get all of the code that you've generated through that project, and you can be like the bulk of the way to where it is that you want to be in terms of your project. Really like speeding up the process like massively. And that kind of comes on to my next point is, we like to move fast and break things, right? It's a very common, well-known quote by Mark Zuckerberg. But it's right? Especially in this age of AI, we shouldn't be like spending weeks or months analyzing, well, okay, is this the right thing to do? It's like, no, let's just very quickly make this a reality. And then let's get feedback on it from there, and we can iterate from there. And that's so much faster and so much more valuable than going to people with like some drawings on paper and saying, is this kind of something you want? Chances are, if you want it, someone else is going to want it as well. And the reduction in the amount of time that you have to spend on that really means that you're not going to have to put as much effort into the researching aspect, more so into the trial and error through deploying and reiterating. So here's some of the things that I built by doing this. I said this is most of these are open source, but if they're not open source, then you can contact me if you would like on Twitter, Telegram, or on LinkedIn, and we can discuss getting something built up for you if you would like. So I decided this was day 3 of my challenge, where I was building a dApp a day. So this is a swap it DEX. Most DEXs out there aren't built in favor of the small investor in comparison to the whales, and so that's what this DEX aimed to do. The first thing that this DEX implemented was the ability on launch of the smart contracts to dictate how much a token could jump up or down by in a single transaction, which stops whales from being able to just dump 100% of the value of your of your token down into the ground, which is something we've seen time and time again in the Web3 space, with rug pulls being so common, we all know what the word is. The next thing from there, the next thing I implemented into this was maximum extractable value bot protection, right? So this, if you don't know what this is where when you're putting your transaction to make a swap on the blockchain, this is stored in a public mempool, right? This is where all the transactions are stored. So someone can see your transaction, how much your transaction was for, what you're looking to get out of it, and they can put in a transaction which front runs your transaction, and then a transaction directly after it, sandwiching your transaction. Now, say you're buying $1 million of ETH, right? Well, they could buy, front run your transaction, buy ETH first, and then sell directly after you, because that was a transaction which caused a large price movement. So with this, they're able to actually extract value out of you continuously at a very, very little amount of risk. And so that was one of the things I built this. And this was something that I built in 24 hours and open sourced if anyone would like it. Then I built a Launchpad, where you're able to launch projects, something very simple, to be honest. But it was something that I thought was quite cool that I could just build in 24 hours. With smart contracts in there that can handle the services and the the role management, and obviously the payment of the user coming on and joining the Launchpad. Next thing from here was something that I've seen very common recently is specific like tokenized VC funds on the blockchain. Maybe because like reduction in costs in comparison to doing this through traditional finance routes. And so this is something that I built for this. And by the way, all of these projects were deployed to the Avalanche Fuji testnet. So thank you to Avalanche for giving me an insane amount of testnet tokens, which I haven't even went through 1% of. The last one I made was actually kind of a joke, but I thought it would be funny. So this is the roommate DAO, and is specifically built for making sure that agreements are set between different roommates that are in shared accommodation. Whose chores are what the bills were, what the share is, etc. And then, for example, if one of the roommates doesn't complete one of their chores, even after like multiple warnings, then they can have some sort of penalty for not actually completing that, and it adds some sort of order and some financial pain for not complying with the agreements that were made between them, which I know I've stayed with people before, and those agreements don't always get kept to. So this is something I kind of just built as a joke, but I'm pretty sure I open sourced this one as well. So what's next? As I said earlier, like I want to set this up so any non-technical person can go in there and they can build whatever they want to build, and at the end of it, it will be a bespoke project that they can have audited. And then I kind of want to transition it into being a play-to-earn game dApp generator, where you're going to Amar, thank you. The play-to-earn game dApp generator, where you're going to have in-browser games, like really just taking it to the next kind of level, and then from there, making the play-to-earn game dApp generator a metaverse world generator, because one of my other projects is interoperability between games. So I'm going to be able to connect it up with that. So people will be able to generate their websites, their games, their assets, and they will be able to be interoperable with each other. And that's kind of like where the stage is, where I see this going. And yeah, that's really where that's going. If you want to kind of see what we're up to, then as I said, kind of replace the generator with, took it out of beta, and it's now behind closed curtains for now. But if you want access to this once it's up and running, again in full launch, then please do go to DappThat.com or scan this QR code. You'll be able to go and sign up for the waitlist, and so you'll be let know exactly when it does launch for the public again. Let me know if I'm to move on from this section, which I don't know if anyone's scanning or not. Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Is there any questions?
Amazing. Thank you. Amazing. I'm just going to ask like the first like super basic question before we get people can ask deep questions. But like, so can you just clarify? So how much of the front end is being generated, like user experience and the buttons, like the forms, and how much like the smart contracts? So
all of it.
So can you just like is like, and how much is like is the AI helping as much in the front and the back end? Like how should we think about the like? Can you just divide those two aspects basically separately here? And
so it generates all the smart contract code, the test code, executes the test, generates the components, the APIs in the database, right? All the code is then available for you to download. The things that it doesn't the limitations, let's say, it doesn't connect to external APIs outside of the project being built. So, for example, if you wanted KYC in your project, then that wouldn't be integrated within the generator. If you wanted decentralized identity, then it wouldn't integrate those. Currently, it's set up for using Open Zeppelin smart contracts, nothing like Chainlink or connecting to external smart contracts like that. But if that's something you wanted to do, then in its stage at the moment, you'd be able to go ahead and get your project and then go and customize it to meet your exact requirements. As I said, what it builds right now is a very solid framework, but not necessarily the exact end product, right? But it gets you really close to it.
Any questions? Come forward and ask me.
Hi, Johnny. It's Rob. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
All good. All good. It's a
Good
quick
to see you.
Good to see you as well. A quick one, less around the tech, which, by the way, is absolutely fantastic. It's more something to do with your perception of where the industry is heading as a whole. I look at agentic AI and these sorts of solutions, and potentially, I think a lot of developers, certainly at the lower level, are going to be out of jobs within the next few years. So, where do you see, what sort of impact do you see this having on the landscape for developers who are maybe sort of starting off their careers?
If you're looking to start a career in software engineering, let me put it this way, right? Like if you haven't learned code already, right, and you're starting to learn code now, you're not learning code in order to get a job, right? That's not the way to go. If you're learning code now, the whole reason that you should be learning code is for you to learn the intuition of how to think systematically. In terms of the impact that AI and these sort of tools will have on the industry, will be if you're going to accelerate the top 10% of developers or top 10% of people in any industry, right, to be 100 or 1,000 times faster, right, then it really means that they're going to be able to create the highest quality things and for new solutions faster. But the people that are kind of getting into the industry will generally be making things using existing solutions, and that's really how I think it would go. So if you're only starting to learn code now, only learn code because you're going to be able to think systematically, and that's going to help you quite a lot when you're actually going around the world anyway. But then if you're but then don't I wouldn't say go and master a specific angle of a piece of library or something, because there's just no point to it anymore, right? Like personally, I use Claude and ChatGPT every single day. I actually can't remember the last time I didn't. But and it does so much work for you. It's unreal. But there's more of these frameworks coming out here, and you'll be able to kind of get where you want to go without having to do code, right? There's so many ways around it. So thanks for the question, Rob.
I'm gonna ask another trivial question. So there's the coding, but also outside, sometimes you have someone that's in charge of collecting requirements and talking to customers, and then sometimes the challenge is there is no perfect spec sometimes, and someone had a vague idea. I think this is maybe how we should work, and of course you can then test that. But so what about, could it be some other AI, just I don't know, for interviewing users when they are unable to write a formal specification and sending this to this AI that builds the code? Can you tell us more about how this whole process of collecting requirements? How does AI change that whole process? How does it transform it?
Okay. I'll give you a little bit of insight into how I've been working with clients recently. All I ask for them is for them to give me 3 sentences on what it is they want, right? And then on that, I can provide something which is 90% of exactly what they wanted, right? And then from there, we just reiterate and refine until it's exactly correct. That's really where, so keeping that distance between the customer and the engineer down to just 3 sentences, it makes it so much easier. It's so much easier in order to do it. And then to actually build what they're asking for. So most people when when they're thinking in terms of results. Like they want this to be able to happen, this to be able to happen, this to be able to happen. It's like, great, okay, let's do exactly that, right? I'll get it up to you and back to you in 24 hours for like $1,000, right? It's like nothing in comparison to how much time and how much money they would spend going through traditional pathways trying to build what it was that they wanted through a team of developers, right? And then it's another area where I think, and this kind of goes back to Robert's question as well. I think there's going to be two main team members for development now, right? And there's going to be the vibe coder, right? Just like takes a couple of sentences, builds out the bulk of a project, and then a QA engineer to make sure it's secure, right? And the vibe coder can easily have conversations with the client based on what it is that they're wanting. But I'm fairly certain in the next like year and a half to 2 years that there aren't even going to be vibe coders or QA engineers, right? Like there's no point, right? Like they're just, the AI is just that good that it will take over. The reason that I kind of think this is because if we're looking at how correct AI is now, right? Well, obviously this is changed quite a bit, but you probably know what Moore's law is, right? Where computers were getting 2 times more efficient every 12 months. Now with AI, that's now every 5 months, right? And my prediction is that's just going to get faster. There are some arguments against this. So, it's limited by the computation power, the data, and the software. Data will be able to be cleaned better. Hardware, incremental improvements in hardware will still lead to very large gains. And AI will be able to write the software, right? So it's going to be able to write it better than humans would. And it's just going to have better and better efficiency of the usage of the hardware and the data. So all in all, I think that this is going to be a very interesting space over the next 2 years. Very interesting space.
Any more questions? Please come forward. Yeah. Can you now turn off your screen sharing and just so we can just see your face now?
Sure.
Hi Johnny, I'm Dennis. I wanted to ask, how do you monetize your work? I find like it's extremely hard to explain to people what you do in AI space. They all think, oh, why you can just do it with like ChatGPT or something like this, like ChatGPT agent. So why would they pay you when they're like ChatGPT and like as a services for free? So that's one question. And second question is, in terms of like technology to support this infrastructure, I expect they're going to be like winners in a space, maybe like NVIDIA, AMD, or some other like companies. So maybe you can give some heads up. What do you see, like what will be the winners in the like tech space that you can maybe like invest now and potentially like?
Well, I'm not giving any investment advice. I say that right now. But pleasure meeting. I would say the first part is how do I convince people to use my tech, right? Or how do I monetize even? First thing, if you're a developer and you want to go and use ChatGPT and Claude without going through this generator, sure, go for it, right? But it's still going to be a lot of manual work, kind of putting all the different files in different areas, right? And so what this does is actually builds the whole project for you to be able to download, and what would be quicker than just interacting with ChatGPT and Claude and any of the large language models. The second kind of point on the monetization aspect is one, usage, right? So we don't put that much cost on top of like what the actual usage is of the APIs. And so, we make a little bit that way, but where we actually make the most money is by actually finding non-technical founders and speaking with them and bringing their projects to reality in just a few sentences in 24 hours, right? Like the rapid prototyping kind of aspect is something that is very very appreciated by non-technical founders because they've been met with developers time and time again that will take months to build something which doesn't work. And instead, I can actually build something that works in 24 hours. And so they're generally very, very excited about that. In terms of who's going to win the tech space, I'm the wrong person to ask about the hardware. I've done some learning on the hardware, but I'm much more software focused than hardware. NVIDIA obviously going to do great, but where I think like where we can think of like where AI is going to be integrated into what devices, let's say, right? I can kind of comment on that side. So Google is obviously going to be integrated into all Android devices and their other laptops. Apple is probably going to bring out their own AI models, and this is something that Apple have done time and time again, is that they're never the first to enter into a market, right? But when they come to market, they come with the best experience, right? And that's their brand. So really, like the best way to kind of analyze this would be, well, what devices are going to, how many devices are going to be automatically injected with a certain type of AI and artificially creating demand. I think that as we proceed right through the next like year and a half, maybe 2 years, eventually your first point of contact when you go to your phone, you go to your laptop or anything like that, your first point of contact is going to be an AI, right? And that's going to be how you navigate. Like you're barely going to need to touch a keyboard anymore, if at all, right? That's how I would like envision that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Questions?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So we're gonna like upload your video on LinkedIn to our 1,500 followers. But that was excellent. That was great. So thank you so much for joining remotely.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.